All right, we're here, and thank you for joining us. We're here with Will Porter, and like I've done with every other live stream that we've done, I'm going to go and let our guest introduce himself. So, Will, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. My name is Will Porter. I'm a freelance journalist. I write for the Libertarian Institute, antiwar.com, Consortium News, sites like that. I mostly write about U.S. foreign policy and Middle Eastern wars and stuff. And so I think we're going to talk about a little bit of that tonight.
Yeah, we're definitely going to. I mean, great timing, right, with the whole Syria thing and how Trump, for 3 seconds was thinking that maybe we should get out of Syria, but then,
I don't really know what happened. Maybe you should.
Well, and help me out here whenever you want. But basically, he was saying we should pull out of Syria. Why are we there? We're wasting trillions of dollars, and fuck Syria. And then, 5 seconds later, no, we're gonna keep our troops there. We're gonna withdraw, but there's no timetable. So basically what every other president has said. Oh, we're gonna get out, but we're not. So isn't that basically what it is?
Yeah, exactly. I think what happened was he sort of went off the cuff, went off script, and said, "Yeah, let's get out of Syria, like America first. Let's do it." Then his advisor said, "No, dude, you can't do that. What are you talking about? We have to stay there forever." And so what they're saying to him is that no, just tell him that we'll stay there until ISIS is defeated. And so that's like the time when allegedly we'll pull out. But who knows when that is? ISIS is now this amorphous like insurgency again. So I don't know. They could stick around conceivably for 10 more years. Who knows?
Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of dumb because they say one thing and then they don't, and then it's sad though because this news story is going to be out of the cycle. I mean, it probably already is because nobody cares anymore, because it's just another war, and obviously all the news organizations, especially MSNBC and CNN, Fox News, they don't give a shit about this. Like, oh, we're in Syria, cool.
Right. If anything, they're for it. They want Trump to push the Syria thing because they see it as a way to get Russia back for the 2016 election. So they're totally gung-ho on it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And if I remember correctly, I think CNN, they had like a headline on, I can't remember whose show it was, but it said like, Trump surprises his administration by wanting to get out of Syria. And it's like, what? Like, why are you not for not having our troops die for no reason,
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy, man. When Trump it's April now, last April, he bombed a Syrian airfield. And like the response of the media was amazing. They're like, he's become our president today. Like, we love him. That's so great. American weaponry is beautiful. One guy was saying how American missiles are beautiful. And they just love it. Can't get enough of it.
Yeah, that was, even some of his biggest supporters were like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you,
right.
Why are you up for us?
Yeah, he lost a bunch of his people then. Like, I think like Ann Coulter and Tucker Carlson all kind of were like, forget about this. Like,
yeah, they were definitely. I mean, Ann Coulter for sure is. I don't know. Maybe she's just saying it for show, but she says she's off the Trump train. So I have no idea. So I guess the whole book of In Trump We Trust is basically not obsolete now.
She wrote.
Yeah, it was called In Trump We Trust.
Wow, that was too soon, I guess.
Oh yeah, well. It was either Trump or Hillary, so it's like flip a coin. Who's worse,
Yeah, they jumped the gun, man. They gave Obama a Nobel Peace Prize, like right in the beginning of his term. It's like y'all were way too soon on that. You should have waited a minute, wait a month.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. And then look at him. Now there's Libyan slave trade, all because of him and Hillary Clinton and them dumb fucks.
I mean, dude, he holds the record now. Obama was at war every single day of his 2 terms. Unless we have 3 terms in the future, you can never beat that. You can never beat every day at war for 2 terms, so he has the unbeatable record.
Hey, I mean, I guess if Trump wants to be the best, this is the way to do it. Got to bomb the crap out of those people, fire and fury like no one's ever seen or whatever. But even though he's like really bad on Syria, with North Korea, I guess there's some kind of light there, some kind of hope.
Yeah, it seems like it. I think that he's planning to meet with Kim Jong-un somewhere. I forget where they said they were going to meet, if it would be in Korea or somewhere in Europe or something. But yeah, he's definitely planning on meeting with Kim Jong-un. So that's a great development, I'd say.
Yeah, that's great. Could you imagine if he actually pulls this off, like, his administration pulls off peace, like actual peace and an actual truce of the Korean War, and all his all the anti-Trumpets are just going to have their heads explode. And then he wins a Nobel Peace Prize because he brought peace to the Korean Peninsula, and then what? Now what are you gonna do?
Right, right. No, I would totally accept it. I mean, look, Obama did the Iran nuclear deal. I was cool with that. I celebrate. I didn't, even though I don't like Obama, I still gave him credit for that. And so if Trump does this thing with North Korea, man, hell yeah, I will say, go ahead and give him a prize.
Yeah, and it's like, no, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I just said give him a prize of some sort. It doesn't have to be a Nobel Peace Prize. Give the man a prize, though.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, he'll just get a participation trophy. Hey, thanks for being the president. Appreciate it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but oh crap, I was gonna say something. I forgot what it was.
Was it about Trump?
I think it was about Trump. Yeah, I think it was about North Korea. So, like in your opinion, how do you think this is gonna go about though with peace in North Korea? Like, what's the main thing that has to happen?
Well, what the United States' position for a long time has been that Korea has to sort of denuclearize before any negotiations are even possible, and so they insist that the North Koreans basically give away the store before any negotiations can start. And so obviously you can see how that is not a very conducive position for negotiation when you're telling the other side to give up and give in and let us win before you can even negotiate. And so I think what's good about this recent announcement that Trump's going to meet with Un is that they've sort of dropped that. And so I think that has been an obstacle for peace for a long time, is the U.S. just insisting that North Korea has to denuclearize before we can even think about talking, or they have to agree to do that. And so I don't know, Trump might still be saying they have to denuclearize, but at least he's agreed to meet and talk. That's like the most movement we've seen on this issue in a while.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think I can't remember who it was or what website or news organization it was, but there was an article that said that North Korea was willing to denuclearize, unless the USA would stop threatening them, because they see how the U.S. treats other countries, Syria, for example, and you know what I mean? Like they were actually willing to, give up their nukes.
Yeah, over and over again, North Korea says that we're willing to talk as long as the U.S. stops threatening us and stops holding joint military exercises with the South Koreans and stops trying to put missiles along our border and stuff. And so they've certainly said they're willing to negotiate as long as the U.S. stops this hostile policy. And now, of course, in U.S. media, you often just hear that other part left out, that they're never willing to negotiate. They leave out the part where they say unless the U.S. drops its hostile policy. And so it's pretty dishonest.
Yeah, they always conveniently leave that part out.
Yeah.
I know Scott Horton always mentioned that, he always mentions that whenever they talk about North Korea, in the show, they always, like you were just saying, they always conveniently take that part out. Oh, they're not willing to negotiate. Yeah, but unless, America stops threatening them, then,
Right. And I mean, I don't think that's a totally unreasonable condition. Like the American precondition of give up the whole store before you even agree to negotiate, that is kind of unreasonable. But North Korea saying take the gun away from our head and then maybe we'll talk, that's not as, I don't know, people often paint the Koreans as madmen and lunatics and stuff, but that doesn't sound totally unreasonable to me, at least, just on a common sense basis.
Right. Yeah, the whole negotiation tactic, I think, is smart, at least right now. But like we're saying, who knows if it's going to actually happen? But I mean, fingers crossed. And I really hope it happens because being a half Korean and seeing this war going on for who knows how long, and technically still going on, it'd just be nice to actually have peace for once.
Yeah, and that's something that maybe I don't know if your listeners know, but the Korean War between the United States and Korea didn't actually end. There was no official treaty or whatever to end the war.
Yeah.
There was just a ceasefire. So that's all we've got. Technically, the war legally is still kind of going on, and the North Koreans constantly point this out that hey, we still technically have a war going on here.
Yeah, and it's not like we're trying to change their, at least I hope not, but it's not like we're trying to change North Korea to be some, another America. As America always tries to do with all these other Middle Eastern countries, trying to do regime change. But I mean, if the way they live is the way they live, we can't help it, then okay, but
Yeah, I mean, of course, North Korea is a terrible authoritarian state, but I think the way, if you want to try to fix that, the way is through engagement, not through, continued isolation. They call them the Hermit Kingdom for a reason. They isolate themselves.
No, yeah, for sure. So speaking of all this, peace talk and all that, let's get to our favorite recently appointed national security advisor, the mustache himself, John Bolton, and your thoughts on, I don't know, what do you call him? A dummy, a retard? What do we call him?
I call him a supreme war hawk. He's just like, he's never met a war he doesn't love. So
yeah, I mean, he was on Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson had the audacity to question him on things. He's like, "Wait, I'm on Fox News. What are we doing?" You know,
that was a great interview with. I like Tucker Carlson lately, man. He's solid. I'm not a right winger at all, but I like him.
Yeah, he's definitely changed a lot because I know he was on CNN. He was one of those hardcore, oh, the Iraq War is awesome. We're doing great things, and I think he realizes the error of his ways in his past, at least in that regard.
Definitely.
I wanted to ask you about John Bolton and why you think he is now the National Security Advisor.
Yeah, sure. So I guess maybe to just get into who is this, what is this guy's background? Where did he come from? Bolton served under the George W. Bush administration from 2001 to 2005 as the Undersecretary of State for Arms Control and International Security Affairs. Super long title. In 2005 and 2006, he worked as the UN ambassador. And in his time as the Undersecretary of State for Arms Control, he did a ton of, you can't overstate the things that John Bolton did in that position to sort of, to screw up peace talks and to make relations with other countries worse. And so that goes from Iran to North Korea to Russia. And now why was he hired? Maybe we can get into more of his history, but I think the reason he was hired has something to do with the Israel lobby and Sheldon Adelson, who's been a big supporter of John Bolton and sort of linked him up with the Trump administration. Now, I had read that John Bolton wasn't even able to get a phone call into the Trump administration for some time. He was considered originally for Secretary of State, and then he was considered again for the National Security Advisor. But apparently he wasn't having much luck with that. But it seems like Sheldon Adelson kind of linked up the administration with Bolton and, got him in there.
Jeez. That's not good because if there's any inkling of peace around the world, with what Trump was doing, especially with North Korea, that's definitely a big slap in the face having him in there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it threatens getting Bolton in. Now his predecessor in the National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster, he's no good either. This guy's horrible too. However, Bolton, I think, just takes the cake. You almost can't be worse than him. And so I think it threatens a lot of our, outstanding agreements like the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA. Bolton has been vocally trying to tell Trump to get out of this thing. In the year that the deal was signed in 2015, he wrote a New York Times op-ed saying to stop Iran's bomb Iran, and saying that sanctions will never be enough and a deal will never prevent them from getting a bomb. And so let's bomb a bunch of Iran's nuclear facilities and that'll stop them. And it's something that John Bolton always cites too. He cited this in the Tucker Carlson interview as well. He always cites the Israeli bombing of an Iraqi nuclear reactor in 1982, the Osirak reactor. And for some reason, he always says this is a great success in preventing WMD proliferation. However, if you're John Bolton and you also believe that Saddam Hussein was a weapons threat by 2002, the early 2000s, I don't know how you can argue that. How do you argue that this 1981 bombing was a success for preventing weapons from proliferating if you also believe that just 20 years later, the same country was a weapons threat? So I don't know. That makes absolutely no sense to me. It's just an example of the kind of arguments Bolton makes to justify his hawkish positions that don't make any sense.
He must have a lot of money in the military-industrial complex for him to be, constantly talking about, all this praise and everything. I mean, he must make some big fucking money.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, he had a huge role under the Bush administration in shooting down the agreed framework with the North Koreans. And part of his deal with that was that he had ties to the missile defense contractors, who didn't want there to be a nuclear agreement with North Korea because they wanted to present North Korea as a missile threat. And so John Bolton helped to totally destroy those negotiations in part for the missile defense contractors. So you're right about that.
Yeah, because if there's no threat, then what's the point of making missiles and, making all that money?
Exactly, yeah.
And so I wanted to get into why I think John Bolton is in, and I'm sure all the examples that you said definitely I think plays a part in it. But what if, this is like a hypothetical, but what if Trump, because I'm playing 4D chess now, what if Trump brought John Bolton in because See, John Bolton wants war. I want peace. I look good. He looks dumb. I mean, come on. Maybe he's trying to be opposite of what he was doing with Rex Tillerson and how, oh, don't listen to Rex. He's stupid. Come on, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. You remember when he was doing all that stuff with
right.
former Secretary?
I don't necessarily think that's not a bad theory at all. Like, I think Trump does kind of think that way. Like, he wants to have foils, like people to sort of like, you know, be easy. I don't know, to make himself more agreeable, to make himself appear more agreeable. Because you have John Bolton, who's this lunatic. He's a fucking maniac. He wants to bomb every country that, you know, he's never met a war he doesn't like. And so yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's a bad theory. I actually hope you're right about that. In fact, I hope that he's doing that just to, you know, have this foil in Bolton.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, because Trump has like the biggest ego, I think, that at least that I can, you know, think of. I mean, Trump Tower, literally Trump on the buildings, you know, because he loves that name so much.
Right.
So it would definitely make sense. But you know, and he wants to be the good cop now, because before he was the bad cop, and now I want to be the good cop. And John Bolton wants war, and you know. But then you think about well, Syria. You know, he was saying we're going to not very soon, and then he's like, no, actually, I was just kidding. I was lying. Sorry. Oops.
Right. Who's to say it was Bolton and, you know, somehow in charge of that, or was he somehow responsible in convincing Trump to like, no, man, you can't leave Syria. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's I don't know. The whole thing is just crazy. So I wanted to also kind of maybe get away from all this a little bit, and talk about you for a little bit. What got you into journalism? What was like the main thing that maybe like lit the light bulb in your head?
Well, I had gotten into libertarianism like in 2012 or so at Ron Paul's last campaign. And, you know, I was generally interested in all Austrian economics and all the general stuff libertarians are. But the foreign policy stuff started to become really interesting to me after I discovered antiwar.com and the Scott Horton show and stuff. And so I just, you know, I had been writing on other subjects up until that point. And so around like 2013 or 2014, I started submitting articles to antiwar.com. And I developed a relationship with one of their editors, Scott Horton, and he kind of encouraged me to go further into it. And the one particular article is the first piece I actually ever submitted to antiwar.com about the Iraq War. Scott, like, you know, gave me his phone number and said, call me and like, let me kind of help you through this because I got some stuff wrong in there. And he helped me kind of sort it all out. And it was from that moment on, like we had that phone conversation. From that moment on, I was really into the journalism stuff. Like I think this is what I want to do. You know, I thought at the time.
Wow, that's really cool that he was, you know, gave you his phone number and all that, and he helped you with it. That's really cool.
Yeah, I definitely appreciated it. Like him taking the time. Like, I don't think he does that with every, you know, person submitting, and so I definitely appreciated it.
Yeah, he definitely saw something in you, so that's definitely an honor for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Ron Paul is definitely a big influence on me too. And then, of course, part of the problem with Dave Smith, that's another huge influence on me in terms of me kind of flipping over to the libertarian side, at least more on that side. And, you know, because before I was more, I don't know if I would be more conservative, more left-wing. I was just kind of all over the place. I had, like, different politics, I guess, outside or whatever. But I think libertarianism now for me is definitely more where I'm at more now. So what about you?
I was more hi. I used to be more conservative, but then after discovering a lot of libertarianists, well, the thing is like I always kind of wanted to go more towards libertarianism, but I didn't really know anyone who like talked about it. So, and I'm like one of the few people who didn't know about the Ron Paul movement before. I guess I was too young at the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What specifically about Ron Paul, you know, that kind of pushed you over the edge?
Man, I don't know. Like, I really don't. Like, before I was a Ron Paulian, I was like a total conspiracy kook, like absolute like New World Order, Alex Jones kind of stuff. Fortunately, I'm not into that anymore. But like that was where I was coming from. That taught me how to hate the government, you know, just like they're poisoning the water and putting chemicals in the air and stuff. So that kind of taught me how to hate the state. And so when Ron Paul came around and started talking about, you know, limited government and civil liberties violations and stuff, like I didn't really know much about the market economics part of it, but then I got into Ludwig von Mises and Murray Rothbard and all that, and then I was hopeless. But yeah, I think it was just generally like the skepticism of government power and civil liberties violations from Ron Paul that appealed to me initially.
Yeah, he's Yeah, he's a big influence. And, you know, speaking of Ron Paul, Rand Paul, his son, he does a lot of good. And then sometimes he does things that makes you just want to punch yourself in the face. Like, what are you doing? You know?
Like what?
I don't know. Like, so sometimes, because he's a huge supporter of the police.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
At least I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but because I know one time. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, Rand is like all over the place sometimes. Like I remember a couple of years ago, he came out and said the U.S. should help to back the creation of a Kurdish state. It's like, dude, I could never in a million years imagine Ron Paul. Ron Paul would never say that. Why is Rand Paul arguing this?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, I want. Yeah, I want to know, like, whenever they meet, you know, and talk. I wonder what he says. You know, what his dad says to him. Like, you know, that's not what I would have said. You know, why? I mean, I'm sure he's like, you know, you can go your own way or whatever, you know, and do whatever you want. But at the same time, it's like, you know, you're kind of killing the vibe here, man. You know?
Yeah, I get the feeling that Rand is like embarrassed almost by like his you know curmudgeonly old father who doesn't say the politically correct. Like, I guess Rand isn't totally PC, but less so than or more so than his father was. I think. Like Ron was just willing to just go out there and just say it. Like, yeah, blowback caused 9/11 straight up. What? And then you know.
Oh yeah, with Rudy Giuliani, and he's like, "Wait, how dare you? You need to apologize." And he's like, "No, fuck you. I need to apologize for that."
Exactly. But yeah, like Rand won't take stands like that. It doesn't seem like.
Yeah, I mean, he proved that in the 2016 election. You know, he was when Trump would just freaking badmouth him every chance he got, and Rand was like, "Okay, whatever." And that's why he's not president, because you want to take a stand.
Maybe he's too afraid to be edgy, even though that's kind of what you need.
I know Trump. So, I mean, give Trump credit. He knew what to do.
He was edgy.
Yeah, he was edgy. He knew everyone's weak points. You know, he knew that.
Very overconfident.
Yeah, very overconfident, and he knew that he needed to say that Hillary would be in jail. I wish she was, but you know, what are you gonna do? You gotta take what you get.
Yeah, he was a great campaigner, man. Trump was, like, undeniably. Like, he just, like, wiped the floor with people on the campaign trail.
Yeah. It's so funny, too, like, thinking back on that election and how everyone was saying there is no shot that he'd be president. And now we're...
I even thought that.
Yeah, and now we're almost 2 years in.
Not the same thing, dude.
Yeah, we're almost 2 years in, and he's still the president. I bet there's people out there who said, no, he's not going to make it to 2018. Well, we're in April now, so obviously you know what the fuck you're talking about.
Right, he was really smart with putting Pence in there too, dude, because like these lefties, the lefties who want to impeach Trump, like every thread on the internet that says impeach Trump, there's always one of them going, but Pence though, like, do you want Pence to be the president?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. If he picked someone that was not like him, because who was there's some other candidates that was going to be. I think Chris Christie was one of them actually. Which means, I mean, shoot, I'm glad he's not president, but still, the only thing I know of Chris Christie is that he's let's just say he's fat. He's kind of big. He's a big dude.
Does that have to do with anything?
But I mean, he is. I mean, there's a picture of him playing baseball. He looks like a fucking marshmallow.
That's going to be a good quote for later.
Yeah.
But no, if they would have picked Chris Christie, it would have been more likely, I think, to impeach Trump. I think the regular progressives and stuff could have tolerated him, probably. Not Pence, though. Pence is like a religious kook, so that's why.
Yeah, he's way too religious for them. Yeah, so I guess they got to take with the so-called sexist. I don't know what he is. They call him so many names now; it's hard to keep track.
Right.
So, speaking of Trump, is there anything that he's done, in your opinion, that you actually like, other than, you know, what we were talking about before with the peace process that's going on with North Korea and all that other stuff?
Yeah, other than the Korean thing, I mean, I guess there might be some economic stuff. Like, didn't he lower some, like, I don't follow this super closely, so I don't know if the actual tax cuts, like, were those real tax cuts, or was that, like, when they all, there's tax cuts? It was like was it a cut in the rate of growth, or was it a cut? I don't know. But if it was a real tax cut, then I'll tell you, I'm in favor of that for sure. But otherwise, I can't think of much.
Like the tax cuts on income tax, right?
Yeah. There were tax cuts, right? Am I making shit up?
Yeah. It lowered the tax brackets.
Yeah, and I did see a difference in my own income. Yeah. So that was one thing I really liked about
Yeah, us personally, I mean, at least for her, it personally, for sure, it definitely helped. I mean, I don't know, I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm sure some were affected negatively, but for us, it was, I don't know, I'm sure maybe they got moved into a higher tax bracket because they made a certain amount of money.
You just made the percentages of each tax bracket different.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe they're making, I don't know, just, you know, for example, maybe someone was making 90,000, they were in the 12%, but now with the new one, it's 15,000. I don't know.
No, you'd be making the same amount, but then you'd just be taxed less.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
if that's the case, then I'm for it, man. I'm for any reduction in taxation. So if you did that and repealing regulations and stuff, I'm for that too. So I guess that's good stuff.
The one thing I heard though is that didn't he increase spending though? So
yeah, they always do.
I don't know about that though, because then it kind of cancels that out.
Well, yeah, the national debt's over $21 trillion now because of that motherfucker.
I can't even look at the clock without getting anxiety now.
Like each citizen is responsible for, I believe, like $30,000 or something like that.
A lot. It's
fucking ridiculous. Like I can't. It's so crazy. Like no. I don't know. It's so stupid. Like, you know, I'm gonna reduce the debt. It's like, come on. You know, be realistic. You're not.
Well, okay. This is a good question. I feel like, well, I guess a good point, I guess, to make. What at this point could they actually do though? Because now we're so bad that, I mean, there's no way to fix it now, right?
Domestically, or you mean in the foreign policy stuff, or just in general?
In general, like the national debt.
Yeah, I don't like. I guess I would tie that into the foreign policy thing. I'd say stop the wars. That's where so much of the GDP is being spent. Sure. They're borrowing so much money to finance this stuff. And like you were saying, it's kind of funny that if he's going to increase the spending but yet cut taxes, that just means more debt. Like they're just going to borrow to finance the deficit spending. So it doesn't really do much. They're going to have to tax us eventually to pay for that.
Yeah, as they say, the government spending is the actual tax.
Yeah.
You know, just taxing is just, you know, what it is, but continuing the government spending is the real tax.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's to be paid for.
Yeah, I know, right? It's sad. You know, so what's the worst thing that Trump's done so far? Since we said positive, what's the worst thing that he's done so far, in your opinion?
There's so much to choose from, man.
All right.
In terms of like real concrete policies, I would say when he bombed that Syrian airfield last year, like that was really alarming to me. I thought that could go any direction, like could have escalated to something terrible. But there's a lot to choose from. You know, like he had a recent thing called a nuclear posture review that lowered the threshold for when they're going to use nuclear weapons. Like they said they might now use them in response to a cyber attack.
Oh,
and of
really?
course, everybody's claiming Russia did a cyber attack against us. And so that's that's maybe the most alarming thing they've done. And it's kind of been done quietly too. Like people didn't make a big deal out of that.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that till right now. That's pretty, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, no one has a problem with Russians colluding in our elections, supposedly, but America could collude with, you know, anyone's election. Nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah, I mean, we've interfered in, I think it's 81 or something elections, and that's not even counting like wars and regime changes, and that goes even further. But just straight up, just like screwing around in people's electoral politics, like we've done that. And I mean, there's only like 200 something countries on planet Earth, you know, so 80 countries is kind of a lot to be interfering in.
Really bad.
Could you imagine if America like invaded Antarctica for some reason?
There's a treaty, man. You can't go there.
Yeah.
There's like a treaty between all the world powers that says you can't militarize Antarctica.
Yeah, and you know what? This has nothing to do with that, but then all the people who believe that the Earth is flat think that the reason why that it's like a treaty there is because that's where the edge of the Earth is.
It's the ice wall.
Do you think the Earth's flat, Will? Do you think the Earth's flat?
Got me, man. Guilty as charged. No, I'm fascinated by the flat Earth stuff, man. I've learned so much about like Earth science, like, you know, proving why the Earth actually is round. Just watching like rebuttals to flat Earthers. I think it's fascinating.
I do that too. It's like a rabbit hole that you go down, and then you keep going deeper and deeper, and you're like, okay, I don't know why I have recommended videos on YouTube about flat Earth documentaries, but
for the next like 2 years, that's all you see in your recommended videos. It's like trees are mountains are actually old trees. Have you heard this theory that mountain
No.
ranges are actually like ancient petrified wood, and that there used to be gigantic trees? Look
Okay.
into it.
I haven't heard
What?
that one.
It's related to the flat Earth thing. They think there used to be giants on Earth, and so they think like mountains, what we see as mountains now, are actually like tree stumps of petrified wood.
There used to be giants on Earth.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up later.
It's a,
God.
it's a thing.
Wow.
All I knew about was like the dome and the edge of the Earth, and and like the curvature thing. But that's all I knew about. Like I said, I didn't go further. I didn't go.
Yeah, he went. Will went deep
I
into
go
the.
deep.
He goes real deep. Like holy shit, man! There's giants on fucking planet Earth, man.
And then
I've gone beyond flat Earth. I'm on triangle Earth now. We're
square Earth too. There's probably square Earth. I'm sure someone thinks there's 4 corners of the globe.
yeah, man.
Sorry, I'm the one who brought that up. So.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
So, like, so we're talking about flat Earth. So what's the craziest like conspiracy theory you ever heard? Because you said you were, you used to kind of be a part of that whole group or whatever, or I don't know, mindset. So what's the craziest conspiracy theory that you've ever heard that you thought was actually legit?
All right, thought actually legit. Maybe that's not like maybe chemtrails or something. Like that's maybe the crazy. Because I didn't go that deep with it. I was never a flat earther. I never believed in like holograms and I don't know, like the 9/11 attacks were holograms or stuff. I never believed that stuff. But yeah, I would say maybe the flat Earth stuff is the craziest, most far-fetched claims out there because it questions every aspect of reality. It's not just one little political event or one historical event. It's saying everything you know about everything about physics is wrong, and so that's the craziest theory to me, I guess.
What about you? What's the craziest thing you've ever heard?
It's either it's gotta be that one probably, and then like. For a second, like for a split second, when you're watching the video, you're like, well, maybe. But then you're like, wait a minute. And then you have to forget about all the science and everything. So, and it's just ridiculous because you can tell just by looking that it's not flat.
Yeah. For me, it was Bilderberg.
Yeah.
Bilderberg.
So you think that it's not real?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't
know either.
I am not 100% either way because, I mean, they have those meetings every year. I mean, it's true.
So what do you think they're talking about then?
I don't know. And news organizations, New York Times, Newsweek, people from those, go there too. Politicians, Republican and Democrat, go there. People from the Obama administration, Bush, Clinton, Reagan, they've all been there. And what is it? The True Story of the Bilderberg Group, which was a book that I was listening to the audiobook, but one of the things that they were saying was, I guess Bill Clinton went about a year before he became president. And then he became president the year after he joined he went to the Bilderberg Group, and he was just like, that's kind of weird.
So you think they're choosing the people before they, and influencing the election?
Well, they're probably saying, hey, you need to do this and this and that. And if you do this, then we'll guarantee you're to be president.
Yeah, I don't have a hard time believing that kind of thing happens, that like rich and powerful people meet in secret or have meetings and they discuss what they're going to do in the future. Like, I think that's probably happens.
Yeah. Like that, Bill Hicks, one of his things where he's, when someone becomes president, they show him that Kennedy video.
Right. From an angle no one's ever seen.
An angle that no one's ever seen. You're like, so any question? It's like, yeah, that's plausible.
Back into the left.
Exactly. Exactly. I can't believe that people seriously think that he did it, Oswald.
Yeah, I know. And you know what's funny about that? I went to the museum because we're in Dallas, right? And it's supposed to make you think that, solidify that actually happened. But after I was done with the museum, I'm like, well, now I'm convinced that didn't happen. So, because it just doesn't seem.
It went out.
Doesn't add up.
It went out to convince you, and it convinced you the other way.
Yeah.
It backfired.
Yeah, I know, right?
I think everyone, if they're in the area, should go see that because then you'll be convinced that didn't actually happen.
Yeah, but look, with stuff like conspiracy theories, I think in some cases the only difference between a radical libertarian and a conspiracy theorist is just standards for proof and evidence and stuff. Because that's really what's changed about me since I was a truther. It's just I want to go check on something. I don't just listen to some dude who says that X event occurred on X day or X time or whatever. Like I actually want to go and what's the footnote? Like what's the proof of this? And so I think when you go and seek proof for a lot of things, a lot of stuff falls away. That it's like, all right, well, I can't really prove chemtrails. I can't really prove, 9/11 was an inside job. However, you can prove all kinds of, sketchy stuff, that we've been lied into wars, that the government is involved in smuggling cocaine, like in the Iran-Contra thing. Like there are conspiracies, and the government is evil, and the politicians are bad people. And so the conspiracy theorists are right to some degree, but they just, I don't know, they run with things, and they don't insist on good standards of proof and evidence and stuff.
Who is your least favorite politician right now?
Oh, man. It's so hard. Probably someone on the left, whoever's pushing the Russiagate thing the hardest. That's my least favorite. Who's doing that right now? Who's doing Adam Schiff? Is he?
Who is it?
Adam Schiff. Is he pushing the?
I'm pretty sure he is. It wouldn't surprise me. Anyone who's anti-Trump's probably pushing it. I'm sure Maxine Waters was, she was pushing it a hard time for a long time. I don't know if she is or not still, but wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's so hard to say. I as a matter of principle, I dislike all politicians. Like I've only made one real exception, and that's for Ron Paul in the past, who I actually like, but otherwise I'm suspicious of all of them. So
do you think if Ron Paul became president, do you think he would have actually done everything he was going to set out to do?
To the extent that he was able to, if people didn't obstruct him, which they would have tried to, but there's some stuff he could have just done as commander in chief. He could have just said, nope, send the troops home. I don't care. He can order those troop movements as commander in chief. And so there's certain stuff he could have done for sure. But yeah, there would have been some complications there. Absolutely. There would have been people trying to stop him. There's so much establishment momentum up against him. The arms dealers, every lobby is up against Ron Paul's philosophy. So, but yeah, that would have been fantastic.
Yeah, it would have. It's a shame that it didn't happen, but hopefully someone will come out of the woodwork and fulfill his shoes. Because sadly, Rand Paul is doing a decent job as senator, but I don't think he's going to be that person.
Right.
I think he's kind of proven that a couple times, or however whoever whatever you think of him, but.
Yeah, I don't see anybody on the horizon right now who's even close to like a Ron Paul type figure, who's just willing to just reject the whole damn thing and just speak truth to power. Like the closest thing you have are people like, Bernie Sanders, and he's not good on the war and peace questions. He's really not that great on them. He recently supported a nice resolution against the Yemen war and stuff. But I don't know, Bernie is not like a principled dude on the war and peace question. He works with Lockheed Martin. They build some of their F-15s or F-35s in Vermont. And so his district gets jobs out of that. And so he's cool with it. So he's not, could you imagine Ron Paul ever having some kind of crony deal with Lockheed Martin like that?
If he had a crony deal with Lockheed Martin, his fan base would just be completely a complete 180. They'd be like, fuck you, man.
Right.
I feel like it would be completely
they
shattered.
Yeah, their hearts would be broken if that happened.
But somehow for Bernie Sanders supporters, it's not a shock, it's not a disappointment. They probably don't even know about it. They don't even care. It's just whatever. He went free college, so that's what
and they don't even know that when you get free college, there's other things you have to pay for, and
Yeah, well, I feel like his supporters don't it's you get to the logical conclusion is that you're going to end up paying for it some other way. So it's they just don't care about that part. So.
Right, somebody's got to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Through taxes.
Well, they I don't know. If you're really simplistic, they're gonna think, or those people are just gonna think oh, so the rich people are gonna pay for it. That's not usually what happens. It's usually the middle class who pays for it, and then those people are middle class, and then they end up paying for it.
Right.
Yeah, regressive. It's very regressive.
I know it's not so simple. Just free college and that's it. You can't.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's like free healthcare. Oh, that's it. There you go. Simple. It's not that easy to
And that policy of the free college thing, that's a response anyway to the totally screwed up system of subsidies anyway, which drive up tuitions and make people think it's this unfair capitalist racket. And we have to, Bernie Sanders rhetoric is it's this capitalist racket. We have to socialize it. But really, it's a result of cronyism in the first place and government intervention in the first place. They're the ones who drive up tuition through subsidies and stuff. Yeah. So I just find that funny.
Yeah, Yeah, I think I don't know. I think Bernie Sanders is a hypocrite, as they all are, you know.
Definitely.
So
I mean, like,
all right.
look, I'll take his like he's decent on some. He's sort of anti-war on some things. On Yemen, you know, he's good. I'll take it. You know, I'm not gonna criticize him for that. But
Yeah, I was one of those, you know, I was one of the people that was calling in, you know, saying, hey, I want my senator to do this, and hey,
yeah,
John Cornyn, please vote. Oh, I guess you're gonna vote. Okay, I guess you're not gonna listen to what I'm saying. Ted Cruz, please listen. Oh, I guess you're not gonna.
Yeah.
All the people I called for, oh, fuck you, we don't care.
right. Yeah,
And,
the resolution failed. They killed it. So fucking, I don't know, despicable.
yeah, well, from what I've heard, it did better this time than the last time I guess it went to a whole stage or whatever. But yeah, it's a shame. It's, you know, you can literally tell them that there's famine and a literal genocide happening over there, and they don't give two flying fucks about that.
Yeah. Yeah, our government completely supports that. We've backed the Saudi coalition since its bombing campaign started in 2015. They've killed tens of thousands of people. There's a cholera outbreak that's a million people.
Who was president at 2015 that did that? Who was it? Who was president?
He was this Kenyan guy, I think, this Muslim Kenyan guy.
Oh, how dare you! How dare you!
Of course, yeah, Barack Obama.
Yeah, Barack Hussein Obama. I call all the people that love him for no matter what Obamers, because they're just Obamers. That's what they are. And then I call all the people who are like anti-AMPRO, the Trump people, I call them trumpets, because that's all they are. Is Trump. They talk shit.
Trumpets. They're the Trumpster. Can we do something with like dumpster, like a portmanteau between Trump and dumpster?
Oh, there you go, Trumpster.
Well, that would be a good meme, because then I can kick the dumpster, and then it'll be like.
But it's his face.
Yeah.
It's a Trumpster fire.
Hey, there you go, Trumpster fire. Hey, Circle, if you're listening, did you hear that? I know you're there.
Make a meme.
I know you're there. He's one of our awesome followers.
Yep, he's our channel moderator.
Yeah, he's moderating the chat. Has there been any questions that anyone's asked or checked?
No, I was looking at the chat. They're all like talking about Bernie. Well, they were talking about Bernie Sanders, and now.
What did you think about the Obama portraits? They looked awesome, right?
Yeah, it's great, man. Did you see the one where they replaced it with drones in the background?
Oh yeah, that was funny.
Gold, man.
Go, Jerry, go.
But I did think it was bizarre. The artist he chose, that crazy commie whatever.
Oh yeah. I heard about that because I guess he did. These paintings were with like people like with like the severed heads or something like that. Yeah,
exactly. It's some really like sadistic, weird imagery. He's like, that's the artist I want.
Like, did he really choose that, or did someone choose for him? Because if he chose him, he has to know that's the kind of stuff he did. I mean, he can't be that stupid.
I think it's just like popular in like the art community to just be like that now. Like, remember, what's her name? Abramovich. Remember all the spirit cooking stuff that was in the Podesta?
Oh yeah.
That's like modern art now, like covering things in urine and like blood and drawing a swastika, and I don't know, it's some kind of social commentary. And so all the brutality and stuff, I think that's just sort of in. So maybe that's why they chose that.
Yeah, that was a big news story in InfoWars. That was the big news story. Hey, they're doing these spirits.
Or they're actually conjuring spirits, and it's like that's how they understand.
What we're talking about with I guess like who was it? Some Hillary people or something like that.
The Podesta brothers.
What?
The Podesta brothers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was her campaign manager, I think, right? Podesta. Yeah, they're part of the whole spirit cooking thing, and Alex Jones was making a big deal about it. And, how they're demons, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard some stuff. I don't know what I believe yet. I'm not gonna talk about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. Some of the stuff that these bigwigs do is kind of, I don't know, they're fucked up.
Yeah, probably. I mean, they're just full of power, so I don't know what happens with that.
So I wanted to ask you too, for you personally, since you're a writer for antiwar.com and a journalist major, What's something that you've kind of dug through, you know, when you're kind of writing your pieces or whatever? What's something that you learned that like truly shocked you? Like, wow, I actually can't believe that's true, or you know, something that you learned.
I got something. So it's related to Syria, the Syria conflict. So there's a document that was declassified in 2012 by the Defense Intelligence Agency, and this is like the Pentagon's like spy agency. And in this document, they're talking about sort of like describing the situation in Syria and the rebel opposition. And they're saying the rebel opposition in eastern Syria is super radical. Like they're so radical that like there's even a risk that what they called a Salafist principality might emerge in eastern Syria. And that word Salafist principality is just a synonym for Islamic State. Salafism is just a form of Islam. It's like a school of jurisprudence in Islam. And so basically what this document is saying is that the Syrian opposition is super radical. An Islamic State might even emerge in eastern Syria. But that's exactly what we want, and we're totally supporting the opposition. Like almost verbatim, this is what this document says. And it's unbelievable that the Defense Intelligence Agency is just so casually pointing out that, like, yeah, it's basically Al-Qaeda or, you know, the Islamic State in eastern Syria. But, yeah, we would like to support this opposition to isolate the Assad regime. And that's exactly what we've seen. The Obama administration, and then Trump continued it, tried to back up this allegedly moderate Sunni opposition, which was not moderate. It ended up bolstering groups like Jabhat al-Nusra and Nur ad-Din al-Zinki, which are like, you know, they cut off a head of a young kid in 2015, I think. There's a video of them doing this. And so, yeah, our government is essentially, this is maybe one of the most surprising things, was their admission that, like, yeah, we just want to support the super radical Islamic movement to isolate Bashar al-Assad.
Yeah, because it's all about overthrowing him and regime change, basically, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then there's even leaked recordings later with John Kerry talking about how, like, he's meeting with a Syrian opposition group and he's trying to appease them and say, like, you know, we're trying to overthrow Assad. And he's talking about how, yeah, we saw the rise of the Islamic State and we thought we could manage, and we thought Assad was threatened by this. And so that to me just says, like, that perfectly fits with that 2012 DIA memo saying, like, yeah, we saw the rise of the Islamic State. We didn't like it, but we thought it would, you know, threaten Assad. And so we tolerated it and backed its allies.
That's crazy, because then that just started like a huge war, displaced a whole bunch of people, and now there's like tons of refugees pouring into Europe, all because of that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, between that and Libya, which is also a U.S. project.
Yeah. Yeah, like I mentioned before, there's actual slaves in Libya because of the U.S. foreign policy under Obama.
And the funny part about that is, like, he's, you know, people are like, it's a champion towards, you know, diversity because he's half black, but then he's the one who created the slave trade.
Yeah, man, it goes beyond the slave trade too. In Libya, there's a group of sub-Saharan Africans that live there called the Tuaregs. And the Tuaregs were largely seen by anti-Gaddafi forces as being like Gaddafi's mercenaries and his like dogs, like his people who serve him, which isn't really true. Like there might be some truth to it in some cases, but not true largely of the whole group. And these people were horribly like persecuted because of this. Like they're locked in cages, and like huge anti-black pogroms unfolded in Libya, all because we overthrew Gaddafi. And here's Obama, supposed to be this peace prize, civil rights kind of guy. And I think I agree with Scott Horton when he says in Libya, Obama might as well have been the Grand Wizard or whatever, the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan for all the black people he got killed there.
It's just sad that a lot of people don't even know this. Like nobody, like the mainstream media won't pick this up, and people don't care to listen to it because they want him to be the hero, you know?
Yeah, they worship him literally as a god. So
I know a lot of people like in person who like literally worship him.
Yeah, like it's like if they're watching this right now, they probably wouldn't be our friends anymore or something.
Yeah, they'd probably be like, I can't be friends with you because you're racist.
Yeah, that's the whole thing now. Have you been called a racist, man, because you didn't like Obama or something like that? Come on.
Yeah, dude, all the time, nonstop. I'm a fascist and a racist.
It's so fucking stupid.
It doesn't make any sense. It's like they don't finish the thought.
God.
I don't know.
It's that you can't have a comprehensive, hey, I don't like his policies. Not because he looks darker than me or whatever. So who cares? I don't give a fuck what he looks like. He's killing people over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're racist because you like it.
Right. I mean, when Obama first took office, dude, I was like, hell yeah, man, the first black president. Like, I'll give this guy hell yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people were like that. I think even some of the people who didn't even want him there, they're like, you know what, I'm going to give this guy a chance because he won fair and square. You know, he beat John McCain. John McCain would have been a fucking, you know, complete, you know, farce of a president. You know, and speaking of John McCain, it's one of those, you know, Barack Obama, or we're actually going to start like a billion other wars under John McCain, you know? So, but yeah, everybody was saying that, you know, hope and change. You know, he sounded so, you know, revitalizing, especially, you know, when we're having stupid Bush 43, you know? So he was a disappointment, like a huge disappointment. That's an understatement.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, his him being bad on like race stuff too goes further than Libya as well. In Ukraine, he backed a coup d'état there in 2014 where it was literal neo-Nazis, like Hitler worshiping, loving Nazis leading this thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Seriously? Wait, I didn't know about that. Sorry, what happened with that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What exactly happened with that? I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, so in 2014, it's this thing called the Euromaidan protest movement, and the U.S. completely backed this thing, and it overthrew the president of Ukraine, Viktor Yanukovych, or Yanukovych. I don't know how to pronounce it. But some of the stormtroopers leading this were groups like the Azov Battalion and the Social National Party and the Right Sector Party. And these are guys who worship a guy named Stepan Bandera. And Stepan Bandera was a Nazi collaborator during World War II. And so basically these are literal Hitler or like Nazi worshiping guys. And, you know, they were the stormtroopers who sort of like, they were the guys who were willing to fight with cops in the streets, you know? Like if you want a coup d'etat done, like who do you back? You can't back a bunch of liberal, like limp-wristed journalists or something. You got to back the hardcore stormtrooper guys who are willing to go fight with cops in the streets. And that's who we backed. That's the, you know, and guys from those groups ended up in the post-coup government in Ukraine. Yeah, I'm writing an article about this right now, actually, the role of the U.S. Government in the Ukraine coup of 2014.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna have to check that one out for sure when it comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
definitely interested in that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, my brother's girlfriend is Ukrainian, so I wonder what her thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I don't know. She may be surprised by it, or maybe she knows about it. I don't know.
I don't know. She would have been there in 2014, so
really?
Yeah. When that article drops, let me know because I'll have to share it with her.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a huge, like Ukraine lobby in America, actually, like a big like that. They push our politics in certain directions. Almost always a hostility with Russia. That's what the Ukraine lobby pushes for.
Hmm. Yeah, I heard. I think actually, Caitlin Johnstone. Is it? I think it's Johnstone, right? That's how you pronounce her name, Caitlin Johnstone. Yeah. She was saying something, or one of her articles was saying that kind of about the whole Russian collusion thing, whatever. How before Trump actually became president, after he won the election and everything, it was about maybe a week or so before Obama. His final days, whatever, as president, and Rachel Maddow on one of the shows was saying, so if these troops along the Russian border, if Trump takes takes them out and brings them home, is that to kind of sum it all up, is that basically saying that Trump is Putin's puppet because he's being friendly to Putin in Russia?
Right. Yeah. Rachel Maddow has been absolutely the worst on this. Like, as far as anyone in American media, like maybe Louise Mensch but she doesn't have a TV show. Maddow has been absolutely horrible on the whole Russia thing. And no, it doesn't make any sense to say Trump is some kind of Putin of puppet, or a puppet of Putin, excuse me.
Yeah.
He's done all kinds of stuff. I mentioned that nuclear posture review earlier, which basically was threatening. It was putting Russia in the crosshairs, saying that we might nuke you if you do a cybersecurity attack on us, which everyone is saying Russia did. So that makes it particularly worrying. There's been sanctions that have been proposed and levied. The American military just killed Russian contractors fighting in Syria. There's been a huge list of things that like clearly show that no, we're not Putin's puppet. Like clearly we're actually very hawkish. I mean, you have NATO expansion, you have that Obama administration policy of backing that Ukrainian coup. And Trump seems to be kind of down with it. He approved weapon sales to that post-coup state in Kiev. And so, no, it doesn't seem to me at all that we're, doing all these nice things for Russia.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any collusion, it's Israel. I mean, Jared Kushner, he's what? I mean, there's a lot of dirt on him.
Yeah, his family is like a real estate development family, and I think in Israel, and I think they helped to build some of these illegal settlements. And of course, they're like because of Kushner, Trump is like a huge pro-Israel guy now too, and so he's totally beholden to the Israel lobby, which I think that should be a sign to any of his supporters, any of his drain the swamp people, that like if the Israel lobby's behind you, absolutely not. He's not going to drain the swamp.
Yeah.
Therefore, every war too. The Israel lobby.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole drain the swamp thing, I think, was just, it sounded cool. We're tired of Obama. It's kind of, like kind of what we were talking about before with Obama, when he became president. We're just tired of Bush, so he's in. Now Trump's in because we're tired of Obama. It's just,
Right, it's always the same. They always present themselves as being like the great, champion and liberator and the peace candidate or whatever. They always want to just differentiate themselves from the last guy.
Yeah. So whenever you speak about the Israel and the Palestinian conflict or whatever, and you say something remotely positive about Palestinians or anything like that, you're automatically considered an anti-Semite, or what, you want Israelis to die or something, and I see it all the time on social media and news articles. It's kind of crazy because the way that the Israelis, at least from the stuff I've seen, so maybe I'm being biased. I'm sure I am being biased, or maybe, I don't know, whatever I am, but some of the things that I see the armed forces of Israel and how they treat the Palestinians is fucking terrible. And I don't know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but
no, I mean, absolutely. I think the people this is called real intense defending of Israel is called Hezbollah. It's like the name that people have given to it, which is, I think it's a word in Hebrew that just means justification or something. And so there's all these Hezbollah lines of as soon as you say anything critical of Israel, then all these people come out and call you an anti-Semite. And they say, oh, you just want Jews to die or Israelis just to die. But I think they're totally, of course, they're truncating the antecedent. They're totally erasing all the last 70 years of history, which showed a consistent encroachment upon Palestinian land, stealing their property and dominating them under military occupation. Now, I don't just support the Palestinian cause uncritically. Right. I don't like Hamas. I think the PLO is full of crooks, or the PLA, excuse me, is full of crooks. A lot of Palestinian leadership is corrupt. But that doesn't I'm talking about the people who have property rights, whose houses were stolen from them and stuff like that. I believe in, Lockean property rights. And so if they have them, then you have to support that.
Yeah. And it's speaking of that, it's also when you say that, well, I don't want Assad to be overthrown. It doesn't mean I like Assad and what he stands for. It's kind of like with, Gaddafi and so I'm saying, obviously they're terrible people and all that, but it's going to get even worse if America gets their way over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And the question is just to ask, and then what? Then what happens? You overthrow Saddam Hussein, then what? And of course, their answer wasn't, oh, and then we have this crazy civil war where hundreds of thousands of people die and we give the whole country of Iraq over to Iranian influence. That wasn't their answer. They didn't have a damn answer. They just said, yeah, let's do it, and it'll be magical and wonderful, and everything will be great.
Yeah, we're going to be liberators, and we're going to be seen as awesome people, and it's going to be paid for in oil, and this is going to be a short war, and yeah, we're still there. We're still sending people there to die and spending trillions of dollars for what? What's the payoff?
Yeah. And the funny thing, man, about if we're talking about Iraq here, the funny thing is that Dick Cheney, for example, at American Enterprise Institute conference, went on an interview and said, he was asked, this is before the second Iraq war, and he's asked, why didn't H.W. Bush go through with overthrowing Saddam? And Cheney is gives this great answer. He's oh, well, it'd be chaos and Iraq would start falling apart and breaking up into different pieces. And no, we just shouldn't do that. We wouldn't have a coalition to go in there with. And he gave this amazing answer. And it's yes, you do get it then. It's they understand this stuff. They're not at least Dick Cheney's not dumb. He knew exactly what the hell the consequence would be, but they did it anyway. So I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's because of the MIC, the military industrial complex.
Right, money.
Money.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you too, because we're about an hour in. I wanted to ask you, about blowback and how you mentioned blowback, how with Ron Paul and, saying to Rudy Giuliani, the reason why, 9/11 happened is because we're attacking them. So why are we surprised that they're attacking us back? So what do you say to those that say that blowback isn't the reason? It's because Islam is Islam is a terrible religion. It's the worst thing ever.
Right. I hear this all the time. And I think it's a horrible counter argument. It's not a good explanation. But however, first I would just cite to them the guy who used to run the CIA's bin Laden unit. They called it Alex Station. This guy's name is Michael Scheuer. And he makes a lot of points in his books, like in Imperial Hubris and Through Our Enemy's Eyes, that like you better damn well listen to what your enemies have to say. Like you better not you ignore what they have to say at your own peril. And all throughout the late 1990s, Osama bin Laden was insisting that support for Israel's policies in Palestine, American policies in Iraq, the sanctions regime that killed hundreds of thousands, the stationing of American soldiers in what bin Laden called the land of two holy places of Saudi Arabia. He cited all these things as his reason for wanting to fight and attack America. It's not because we were too Christian or our women were too free or we didn't impose Sharia well enough. It was all political. Every last thing all of his grievances were political grievances. And he was referring to policies, not to religious stuff. And if you look at the rise of specific groups like Al-Qaeda in Iraq, led by Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, they eventually became ISIS. If you look at the circumstances in which they arise, it's all in response to American policies. Islam's been around since 600 AD. And for some reason, we only see these real strong Islamic movements forming in these specific times and specific places. And so just referring to Islam in general is not a good argument. I can be far more specific than just Islam. So if you got something, if they have something more, I'd invite them to give me that argument.
That's a good.
That would be a good debate against Stephanie McWhorter.
I know, right? Because she's like completely adamant on, no, it's Islam. Islam's terrible. That's the reason why they're killing us. Like, I think, because we kind of got into it a little bit about that.
Yeah, you went back and forth, and then we decided that we're just going to have to agree to disagree.
Yeah, we have to agree to disagree. I mean, I'd love to talk to her.
Well, we are going to eventually.
Yeah.
But it would be good to have a debate.
Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't win that because she probably knows way more about that than I do.
No, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Not us.
Right. Oh.
If y'all want me to talk to this person, I'll talk. I'll try.
That would be a great,
We'll have both of you on. That'd be awesome. We're going to have both of you on. I'll have Scott Horton on, too. We'll really overwhelm her with all the negative, whatever you want to call it. To her, at least, it'll probably be negative. Like, oh, look at that.
Yeah, she studies the Quran and stuff. So I definitely respect that, but
yeah,
I know that there is an aspect of blowback, especially
Yeah, I think completely overlooking that aspect is wrong. Because like you were saying, Islam's been around pretty much forever. So we're just now seeing these radical groups coming out of nowhere. And why? Oh, because we don't like President Bush said, they hate our freedoms.
Yeah.
That's why they're killing us. They hate our freedoms.
Right, we're just too awesome. Like we can't be this awesome over here.
Oh my God, they hate the fact that we're playing PlayStation. How dare you?
I'm pretty sure they love PlayStation over in Syria and stuff, or in Xbox and stuff. Like they love that shit.
I know, right? Like who doesn't like that? I don't know. It's just so stupid. But yeah, this was great. We're going over an hour. This was awesome. This was really a great discussion, especially talking about what's happening in Syria, North Korea.
I feel like I learned a lot because I don't know a lot about this stuff yet. So.
Yeah, the Ukraine thing was definitely interesting.
Yeah, it came out of left field. That was just a random throwaway thing. But
yeah,
into the Ukraine.
This is why I like having live streams that don't have any structure because the things you just throw out there is great. And then the thing that you were talking about too is something that you learned that you had this is absolutely crazy. That was really good too.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was great discussion, man. And I really appreciate you joining us. And we'll definitely have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, I'd be glad to come on anytime, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. And definitely wait for your new article to come out whenever it does about Ukraine.
Yeah, I'll send it to you guys for sure.
Sweet. So we have your Twitter on the description of this video. And also for us, you can follow us on our Facebook page and our personal Twitters and Instagrams. And we also have a maker support and a Patreon. If you want to support us and you like our work, you want to see exclusive content, you can go and donate if you like that.
Is there anything else you want to shill on your end?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'll shill some stuff. You guys can check me out if you want to see my writing. You can check me out at the Libertarian Institute. I have an author archive there. It's not all my stuff. It's some of my more like selected articles that I submit to them. I used to write for a site called the Daily Sheeple, where I have like a huge archive of like 130 something pieces there. That should be pinned at my Twitter though. So if you guys have my Twitter, that should be on there.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I write for antiwar.com as well. I often appear on the Foreign Policy Focus podcast, so you can check me out there. And look out for me at consortiumnews.com.
Yeah, shout out to Kyle Anzalone, I think is how you pronounce his last name. He quoted the tweet about this, so he says it's going to be a good one. So I hope he's watching, or he did watch it. Yeah, shout out to Kyle.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, thanks, Will, for joining us, and to everyone that was watching. So yeah, have a good night.
All right, take care. Thanks again.
All right, no problem.